We have 24 hours a day. Organize your day. Work hard. I'm here to talk about success.
Welcome to Electric Theory.
You've arrived at your destination.
Electric Theory is a public research engine behind Bolt Human Capital. We record virtually with leaders across the hospitality and service industry. Audio quality varies by guest. The conversation never does. Guests appear as independent voices. Their views do not represent their employers or affiliated organizations. Stay electric. To Electric Theory, the show where we unpack how people-first brands grow, scale, and lead with soul. I'm your host, Joshua Hunt, founder of Bolt Human Capital, and every week I talk with leaders who aren't just building companies, they're building culture. Today's guest is Lisa Roscoe, the CEO of Pizza Factory. But what really stands out about Lisa isn't just her track record, it's how she talks about people. Systems and scale matter, but so does heart, and that's what we're digging into today. Lisa, so good to have you. Let's dive in.
Great to be here. Thank you for the invite.
So I want to start with the CEO position, right? That call must have been very significant. Do you remember the moment you knew you were taking this role, and what was that gut feeling that came with that?
I remember the moment I really decided I really wanted the role and then how exciting it was to get it. But I think the bigger one was when I decided I really wanted it. So I had been going through the interview process and then made my way up to Sacramento to meet with everybody. And I got to meet with the existing CEO, Mary Jane Riva. And when I met her, that's when it clicked for me that we just had a lot in common about how we see that franchisor-franchisee relation. She's got such a big heart, and or just her passion for the brand just sealed the deal for me. So that was the moment I really wanted it. And when I got the call to get it, I was so excited to take the opportunity.
You've been inside big, complex brands before. What felt different walking into Pizza Factory?
Yeah, I think I've been with big brands and smaller brands. And I think my personal style has always resonated a little more with the kind of smaller to medium-sized brands. And I think that it just felt familiar. It felt like coming home a bit. The fact that we don't talk about store numbers, we talk about franchisee names. It's Steve's store. It's not store number 123. That just really spoke to me.
Yeah. If I love how you guys use the names and not just 0, 1, 2, 3 store.
Exactly.
But if like Pizza Factory were a person, what kind of person would it be, and how does that shape how you lead?
Oh, that's such a good question. If Pizza Factory, the brand or a specific store?
Yeah, let's go to the brand. We're going to the brand.
Okay. All right. If the brand was a person, it would be that person in your neighborhood that's always throwing the barbecue, you know, the one who like every holiday is inviting all the neighbors over, doesn't ask anyone to bring anything. Everyone's welcome. Come as you are. You don't have to get fancy to go to their house. That's who Pizza Factory is. It's just the person that is always bringing people together with good vibes, good food, and no pretentious nonsense.
Yeah. And you're leading this brand that's deeply local, right? That's what I think of when I think about barbecue, the person who's always inviting the community over, small town vibes, tight communities. What does not scale well from a spreadsheet that still fights to protect?
I think probably the biggest challenge would be our consistency with the menu. We have had the same pizza recipe for 40 plus years. We still do everything, just about everything in-house, right? So it's still handmade, tossed, fresh dough. We still are doing all the prep in-house. We've got our own kind of signature sauce. We're still just doing so much operationally in-house. And it definitely, as labor costs rise, as food costs rise, I think from a spreadsheet perspective, there's this desire to go, is there a way we could do this cheaper, faster, more economically? But inevitably, I think where we've always drawn the line is if it's going to change the product and take away from that authentic, amazing product that we've always had that people love, then that's where we draw the line. And so that's probably the toughest thing to scale is saving on those increasing costs and that desire to do it, but we won't do it. We're going to always stick with those fresh products in-house.
Yeah, I love that. And franchises are at the front line. What's something that they've taught you about leadership that no corporate office could?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think probably one of the biggest ones is being willing to do all the roles. We've got owners who have owned for 30, 40 years, and they're still in there on Friday nights tossing dough. because that's their busy night and they know that their leadership in the store in those moments is important, and they're not too big or too important to roll up their sleeves, get back there, clean the bathroom, toss some dough, do whatever they need to do to make sure that their business is running perfectly. And it's definitely something that I've always tried to encompass in my leadership strategy. No job is too big, no job is too small, but you really see it in action when you see these owner operator franchisees that are just working their store. They're just in there day after day doing all the jobs.
Getting your hands dirty. There is a lot to be learned in other industries about franchise owners here in the hospitality space, right? Because it's like you can wear multiple hats, and then you're also boots on the ground. So then you're able to get a pulse on your culture, your people, and also what the guest experiences and where the opportunities are. I want to touch on your unique blend of system thinking and just your people-centered leadership. What's something that you've had to unlearn in order to scale well?
Oh man, you hit me with the tough questions. Something I've had to unlearn. I think one of the things I've had to unlearn specifically at Pizza Factory is that there's no kind of one way to do this or one way to scale a brand. Even with brands that I've been with that are similar in size or culture, Pizza Factory is still incredibly unique. So I think the best example of this would be some of our stores, like I said, 30, 40 years old, and some of them still have that sort of original red and white checkered floor, the look and feel of the original store. And I think as a person coming in, your first instinct would be, let's make sure everyone's refreshed. Let's make sure everyone's got the same brand look and feel. But I didn't do that right away. The first thing I did was go and get into the stores. And I went to see about 50 stores within the first couple of months. And being there in person was such a different experience than looking at pictures of stores. You can look at pictures and say, oh, that one's dated, needs to be updated, or it doesn't have the current color palette. But I got to those stores and they were warm and inviting and the guests loved it. And then when we started actually asking the guests questions, they were like, oh, don't ever change it. And they don't want it to look like every other Pizza Factory. So I think one thing I had to unlearn was that this idea of brand consistency doesn't always just have to be about the look and feel or your trade dress. I think for us, our consistency is in our food and it's in our authentic approach to customer service, which is such a change from some of the different other brands I've been at.
But how do you build the guardrails for these franchisees without turning into Big Brother?
I think it's about working together and leading with your franchisees, not at them, and meeting them where they are. There are some years where economically everyone's doing well, not just us, right? Every brand is doing well. 2019 was probably one of those years where every industry was just riding high. And then there's years like this year where it's a challenge. And so I think it's about meeting them where they are and understanding that in certain years, they maybe aren't going to have the cash flow. And so giving people a little bit of grace when they need it, but also pushing them when they can. And also incremental change is important and valuable. So maybe you don't need an entire renovation. Maybe you just need a fresh coat of paint, update your signage, update some of your furniture. And that might be enough to last the next 10 years without alienating your current customer base and keep making sure that we're hitting those basic brand standards that we have. So I think it's just about being flexible, still enforcing a baseline of standards so that the brand is being represented well in every store. But again, meeting those franchisees where they are and those communities where they are and responding to the fact that they don't want huge change.
I often say one of the really cool things about hospitality in general is that you can be a busboy or server and you can rise to be a franchise owner or a GM or whatever have you. And when you think about succession inside your network, future leaders, next GMs, what do you look for that can't be taught?
Such a great question and a great point you're making too, because some of the best leaders I've met in the hospitality industry are people that worked their way up. And I think it just gives you this really unique, holistic lens of what it takes to operate a business, especially a restaurant, which is much more complicated than the best people in hospitality make it look easy, right? But it's obviously not easy. I think what I look for is there are a lot of things that can be taught, right? You can learn the basics of operation and how to read a P&L and those sorts of things. But what you can't teach is that hard work and that grit. The grit is so important because this is a roller coaster. Hospitality is such a roller coaster. You ride the economic waves up and down, you ride trends. The costs keep going up, but you can't raise your prices as much. It's challenging, and the workforce is changing. So it's a constant change, and you really have to have grit and love for serving your community and for the brand and all of those things in order to really succeed and live in that space for 10, 20, 30 years. You have to have a lot of tenacity. So I think just looking for that and that hard work, the drive, the passion. And then the other piece is customer service. And it's not just going through the steps of customer service and delivering things in an appropriate amount of time and all those things, but I think it's truly connecting when you see people that are getting out in their communities and coaching soccer teams or sponsoring teams, doing fundraisers, that sort of stuff, that it comes naturally to some people to want to get involved and they're comfortable getting involved. And I think that those people really, they shine and they're able to build their business so that it can weather the difficult years because they've built such loyalty and trust within their community.
Yeah, I agree. I think that those are intangibles, right? That can't necessarily be taught. You either have it or you don't. And if you do have it within this space, like all of those other skills can be learned over time for sure. Are there tools or workflows that have helped you stay aligned across the systems without overwhelming teams?
I would say that's one thing that's a gap that I'm actively working on right now. It's such an interesting issue facing the hospitality sector right now, is this sort of joint employer case that's been hanging out there and looming. But I think everyone is figuring out how to thread the needle of providing the tools that the franchisees need from a training and teaching perspective without crossing that line into the joint employer world. So I think that's a gap that I'm working on filling right now, but I have recently moved one of my operations team's members into a director of training role. And that's going to be a huge focus for us in 2026, is making sure we're developing tools for our franchisees to use so that they can really be consistent in that across the chain.
The brand's growing, new ownership, new markets. What's something you won't compromise on, even under pressure?
Like I said, the recipes, that is something that we definitely will not compromise on. We're always going to stay true to that. We've done a lot of research and that's what they love about us. So we're not going to change that. And I think the other thing that we have dabbled in, but I think we're realizing we need to go back to our roots, is having that dine-in space. I think it's very easy, again, to want to save costs and so on. From a real estate perspective, you think, my business is mostly takeout, it's pizza. Do I really need all these seats? Can I go to a smaller model? And what we're learning is that even if people are primarily taking their pizza to go, they still want that dining room. They still want that community dining room, because when they have their team party or their kid's birthday party or they're getting together for a Christmas party, they still want Pizza Factory to be the place that they can gather around a table. And so we want to make sure that we're serving our customers, being able to be a dine-in place and a takeaway place. And so I think from a real estate perspective, we are going to continue to look for spaces that can accommodate the community and have party rooms and that sort of thing.
And I'm glad you touched on the real estate aspects. I do have a question about that. How are you thinking about real estate differently today than you did maybe 5 years ago, especially with all the changes in consumer habits? And just to maybe add a little bit more context, I'm thinking about just like how squeezed hospitality has been, in the last 5 years or so. Outside of any other industry, I feel like from tax breaks and things along those lines just aren't really being favored, if you will. So what are your thoughts about, just like I said, the real estate being different today?
It's such a good point you're making, because it is getting squeezed in every direction. And it's an interesting time to be a landlord too, because obviously vacancies are a bit up this year. So I think we're on the precipice of a bit of a change where it might become a little more tenant friendly over the next few years, hopefully. Right. But I think when I look at this brand and some of the changes that were made over the last 5 years before I came on, I think one of the responses was to try out smaller footprints, different models, and coming to the realization that it's fine, but I think where we really serve our customer best is when we have a more of a traditional dining room space. And so really making sure that we're doubling down on our multi-channel strategy to ensure that we are driving the most dollars per square foot out of that space becomes critical. And so we're making sure that obviously we're on all the third-party stuff, DoorDash, Uber Eats, all of that. Recently onboarded Easy Cater, which has been great in certain markets. So really making sure we're pushing that catering business, making sure we're doing the local store marketing to drive more dine-in sales. And then I think just, like I said, getting out in the community and trying to whether we're doing pizzas for schools, that sort of thing. So off-premise stuff as well. And I think just trying to make sure that we're on every channel available. So wherever our customer is, we have an offering to meet them there so that we can try to subsidize some of that kind of per square foot cost that we're still eating. I think the other thing that is helpful for us is that we do tend to be in smaller towns where the real estate is maybe still a little bit more reasonable from a cost perspective. So that definitely helps.
Great strategies, and feedback overall. I think that to both of our points, it is getting squeezed in every direction. But it's voices like yours that I think can really help, not only help owner operators offset that, but we all come together with a unified voice to say this is an issue, this is a problem, and we want it to be addressed. What's one leadership lesson you had to learn the hard way?
I know last time we talked, I think we talked a little bit about the book Radical Candor, and that's been a very helpful book for me. Yes. I think one of the leadership lessons I've learned the hard way over the years is that maybe I can attribute this to my being Canadian, but I've always been able to connect with people personally. That part's never been a challenge, but I think one of the things that's always been really difficult for me is to then be able to have those really tough conversations, take action when you have to, even if it means moving someone out of the business. And I think there have been times in my life where I've maybe waited too long to have those conversations and avoided having them because I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But I think what I realized over the years is that's selfish because it's helpful for me. It's making me feel better, but I'm not doing them any favors by not giving them quick, authentic, in the moment feedback so that they can improve and be better. So I think that's a tough one I've had to learn over the years, is where I think I let some people down by not having those conversations. And I've pushed myself to be able to do that now and have more of a rigor and cadence to giving feedback and helping people to grow and kind of meet their career goals, even when it's not always the best news.
It's compassionate, right? It's compassionate to do that. And even letting someone go who's not like a culture fit, right? It's compassionate for your current staff, and it's also compassionate to them. And that's something that the book also shares. When the pressure's high and the inboxes are overflowing, what centers you?
I think my family and my friends and my dogs. So I don't have kids, but I do have 2 wiener dogs that are hysterical. So if I ever just need a laugh, I just got to go spend 5 minutes with them. But I think it's important, as much as your job is, it's so important, and you're leading a team and you're leading franchisees, and I don't take any of that for granted. But you also have to sometimes take a step back and say, okay, it's hospitality and this is important, but myself, my team, the franchisees, all of us have to have a life outside of this too, right? So I think just reminding people and reminding myself that it's okay to take some time to recharge, go for a walk, get outside, take a holiday, take your vacation time, all those things. Those things are important. And so I try to encourage my team to do it. I try to lead by example and make sure I'm taking that time, but just getting out with family and friends, exercise, it's probably the standard answer, but I think it's just important it's really easy to get caught up, and then a year passes and you realize you haven't taken any time off. I think it's important as a leader to take that time so that your team knows that they are also able to take that time, and they do take that time. People work best when they can recharge and be refreshed and come at things with a new lens.
Yes, agreed. I love that principle essentially that you live by. Is there another principle or value or favorite quote that has shaped your life or that you try to live by?
Yes, this is probably going to go against what I just said about trying to be able to be tougher sometimes, but I think one of my favorite quotes, but it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. I think that in 2025, that's an important one. I think there's a lot of anger right now. People are dealing with a lot of stress in business and in life. And it's important to be nice. A little bit of kindness goes a long way. And I see it every day with the way our franchisees are treating their customers. They get reviews that just warm my heart because they're going out of their way and kind of going the extra mile sometimes for these customers. And people notice, and it matters. And so I think just keeping that in mind, that it's always more important to be nice than it is to be powerful or important.
In this next chapter for Pizza Factory, assuming it goes exactly how you hope, what does that feel like, not just look like?
So I think what I would love to see, obviously growth, that's the easy answer, but I would really like to see us growing in the Pacific Northwest specifically. So we have some stores in Washington and Idaho, and they do a wonderful job, and I'd love to see us expand that. But I think in terms of what it feels like, I think it just feels like consistency, feeling like from an operational level, the franchisees are getting what they need in terms of training, that they're able to execute consistently without major issues so that we're providing them with those tools. I think it also feels like comfort. People are worried right now because economics are hard. And so it would be wonderful to get to a point where I know that the franchisees are feeling profitable, they're feeling comfortable, and they're feeling like they're ready for growth and not worried so much about the day-to-day sales of one store. Maybe they're looking to open another store, third store, that sort of thing. So I'd love to see more of our franchisees grow to that position where they're building a second or third store. Maybe they're getting their families involved. It's always nice to see when it becomes more of a multi-generational business.
Well, I'm excited for you all. I know that you guys are going to do great. Like I said, that systematic / people-centered trait is a very unique trait. So Lisa, thank you so much for being here and going beyond the playbook with us. It's clear, like I said, that the future of Pizza Factory is in really great hands. This is not an Allstate ad, but it is incredibly, you're incredibly grounded in these human hands. Where can folks learn more about Pizza Factory or even connect with you?
Yes, our website, pizzafactory.com. We're also on LinkedIn and all the different social channels. If they're interested in potentially looking at a franchise, we've got the Pizza Factory franchises website and LinkedIn channel. If they send an email just to the info@pizzafactoryinc.com, it will make its way to me. If anyone ever has any questions or interest in the brand, I'm always happy to talk pizza and eat pizza.
And eat pizza. There we go. Awesome. Yeah, if this episode sparked something for you, share it, review it, and join us again next time as we talk with more leaders building people-powered brands from the inside out. Awesome. This episode is supported by the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program at Dallas College. If you're building a service-driven organization and want culture to become a measurable performance lever, visit bolthumancapital.com. Until next time, strengthen leadership, protect culture, and scale reliability.